you for joining me this second week, either the first time you're here or if you're returning. My name is Marna Wright. I'm the OTMarna, and we're going to talk about sock aids. So this week, I'll just say hello to everybody now, and if you have a question, just post it in one of the comment boxes, and I'll answer them in the comment boxes. Or you can email me, marnab243@yahoo.com if you don't want to post it publicly. Or also, this video will be uploaded to YouTube, so if you have a question later there, ask it there, I'll answer it there. So, some really great feedback from last week from some of you that my volume quality wasn't that great. Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. So I did two things. I moved the microphone in the phone a little bit closer to me. I'll speak more clearly and directly to the camera. But also a little tip, when I do upload it to YouTube, I noticed the sound quality was pretty poor too, but for some reason it improved on Facebook. So from Facebook to YouTube. So if you watch it on YouTube, you might get better sound quality if this is what you're interested in. So yes, this is Sock Aids 201. If you stuck with me to the end last week, I bet you were thinking, how can there be anything more to say about sock aids? But you would be surprised. There is a lot more. So just in super brief review, my name is Marna. I'm an occupational therapist. I work in home health, in the home health setting, and I'm making these videos and some ebooks in the hope that I can reach a greater population of people who might not need home health services but can still benefit from some of the educational stuff that I can provide to you. Okay? So this week we're going to talk about the tri-fold sock aid. So that's why it's Sock Aids 201, because now you're all sophomores. Last week we just talked about a basic introduction to sock aids, who might qualify, who might benefit from using a sock aid. And if you're really interested in more information, I'll refer you back to Sock Aid 101. But in brief review, if you have a condition that limits your ability to reach forward to your feet and put a sock on, and you want to be able to do that, a sock aid would be a great piece of adaptive equipment to help you independently and safely put your socks on by yourself, just like you were doing before. Last week we talked about the plastic hard rigid type, and again, don't pay more than $19 for one. I paid $9.95 for this one. We talked about the parts of it, the front, the back, the top, the bottom, how to put the sock on the sock aid, and then how to put it on your foot. Some physical requirements that you need. Again, you need some hand strength. You need to be able to sit upright. You need some vision and some visual cognition skills and some cognitive skills in order to start the sock aid, do all the steps, and do them correctly and safely. If you want more description of that, refer you back to Sock Aid 101, which will stay up on my wall, but you could find it on YouTube if you can't find it here. So that's enough about him. I'm going to put him aside. This week, we're going to talk about the tri-fold sock aid. So I purchased this one online. Again, I used Amazon. It's Carrick's brand, and they call it their Plantilla. They give them all a name. I don't know. I paid $9.95. I didn't pay even $10 for this. And if you recall, this is a really good sock aid for somebody who doesn't have as much hand strength as is required to stabilize the end of a really stiff plastic rigid sock aid to put the sock on, because the tri-fold sock aids, and Carrick's is not the only brand that sells them. Again, if you do a Google or a brief online search, you'll find there are a lot of companies that make this kind that have tri-fold. And they're more flexible, they're much less rigid, and they generally have a satin lining. Generally they're blue too. This one seems more like a nylon lining to me than a satin lining, which isn't the end of the world. It's just a little less slippery. And generally they all have this terry cloth back, which is really excellent because what it does is it grips that sock on the sock aid long enough for the sock aid to clear your heel and get it on your foot. And that's the whole purpose of this. That's the whole goal. So again, when I talk about adaptive equipment or durable medical equipment, often things are very similar, but things are always just a little different. So this is a little more rigid. It's a little wider, but there are some limitations in how wide your foot can be to fit into a standard one. But you can buy these in a wider brand. These are much more flexible. They're easier to maneuver in my hand, so I don't require as much strength or dexterity. I'll still need fine motor control to pull the sock over, but I don't need as much hand strength to start it. They're basically the same shape, but what's nice about a trifold is if your foot is a little wider, it's not necessarily the end of the world, because you can open it up a little bit. They actually even make bendable that start completely flat, sock aids that are the same material but they're completely flat, and you have to roll the whole thing up into a cylinder to put the sock on. I like this. I think it's a nice compromise. They both have straps, but as you can see, the straps are different. These are ropes, and they have that nice soft cushion. These are almost always, in fact, I've never seen a trifold that wasn't nylon straps. And I'm not sure why. I think it must be a limitation of the material that they make these out of, because they're so much softer. And they'll almost always have these just hoops at the end that you put your hand in. And if you remember last week at the very end, I mentioned it's kind of good. These are kind of better for people who have arthritis in some ways, but not in other ways, because although it's easier to roll this up and put the sock aid on it, this is uncomfortable and can be really painful for someone to hold who has severe degenerative joint disease in their hands. So I've got a little trick. We'll talk about that in a minute, a little OTMarna trick I'll share just with you. Okay, so again, enough about him. That's how they're similar and that's how they're different. Another way they're very similar is you use them exactly the same way. So I'm going to get my shoes off. I was thinking last week when I looked at the video and I was wearing flip-flops, oh my God, I would never tell a client to wear flip-flops, and there I was doing it. And here I'm slightly better. I still don't have heels on my shoes, but that's okay. You know that correct shoe wear, because you're smart, correct shoe wear is a really good way to prevent a fall. But these are used exactly the same way as the hard, rigid plastic ones. You would still get your sock. You would still stabilize it between your knees. My shirt's in the way. And what you could do is bring it down a little further, and that's a lot smaller than the end of this one is, isn't it? So say my sock, I don't have really great hand strength, I can still get this over those trifolds really easily. Okay, same thing, you bring it up to your belly then if you want. Same way you put the sock on, all the way so that toe box of the sock is nice and flat on the top. You still bring this up all the way around, all the way to the top. Now, at this point, what you can do is widen it a little bit. In fact, I kind of encourage you to widen it just a little bit, because they're so soft that if you bring the sock up too high, it's really easy, first of all, for that to happen. But secondly, to make, let me just set it up so I can show you, to make that end a little bit too small for your toes and your MCPs or MTPs to fit through in order to get your whole foot in. So still want it to be high, still want it to be flat at the top, but doesn't have to be all the way to the top, and you can widen it just a little bit with your hands, which I'm going to do. Now you remember the next step. If you watched last week, go fishing for your foot. Because if you go fishing for your foot, you're going to cast your sock aid onto the floor and not break hip precautions or just hurt your back. Not lean so far forward that it hurts your back. So you go fishing for your foot. Very good. Catch your toes. And I hope this is showing up. We're going to move the camera. So I'm going to scoot back a little bit. Catch your toes. Oh, I got my foot fish. Lock my elbows close to my body. Point my toes down and slowly and evenly pull up. And you can wrap around if you need to. And voila, the sock is on my foot. I'll show you that one more time in case you didn't watch last week. This is the front of the sock aid. This is the back. This is the first foot you dress. You dress this foot first, and then magically the sock goes on your second foot. The top of your foot, the bottom of your foot. Stabilize it between your knees as much as you, and close it as much as you need to be able to take your hands and open that sock and put it over the top, okay? Pull it into your belly. Bring the sock up to the top. Make sure that toe box is all the way there so that your foot can clear all the way to the end of the sock. Open it up a little bit. Go fishing for your foot. Let's go fish for the left foot. Fish. Get your toes in there. Point your toes down so your toenails don't stick up and so your heel can clear. The sock aid can clear your heel easily. Slowly pull it up nice and even. Let go with one hand and you did it. And rest your foot. Nice job. All right. So let's talk about these handles. I'm not a real fan of these handles. I don't even like to hold them. They're kind of uncomfortable. And these straps aren't as easy to adjust the length of as the rope ones. I keep saying we're done with it, but I guess we're not. Do you remember last week how this came with the handle at the top? And these are generally like 26 inches long. And then pardon me, I showed you how to make another knot so you can adjust it. So now your handles are a little bit, your ropes are a little bit shorter to make it a little bit more adjustable. Can't really do that with this one. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. I apologize. I think I'm done. Okay. So you really do have to rely on the technique of, well, you can kind of do this. You can fold it up ahead of time. I have my sock on, I drop it, I know from past experience this is the length I like it, and pull it up. You could even like put some tape around it to keep it there permanently, but generally this is going to be a roll up. So if you're finding that, okay, I like the benefits of having that terry cloth because it's going to keep that sock on the sock aid even longer. I like the benefits of having the satin lining because my foot's sticky because I use lotion a lot. Or my foot's a little wider and it doesn't fit in a standard sock aid. And my hands are getting a little stiff and I like the idea that I can start this easier. You like every other part of this except the straps. There's a really easy way to do a little low-tech adaptation to make these a little bit more comfortable. So what you do is fold them like a T, like that, see? Kind of measure it. This is always my OT toolkit. This is pipe insulator that I got at, I went to a hardware store this morning and got a big piece of this, much longer. This is like maybe 1/3 of it for 99 cents. Okay, so this serves a lot of purposes in the OT world. You kind of sort of measure, see? Make it just a little bit shorter. We're gonna cut, so I'm gonna cut the pipe insulator, and I got the 3/4 inch, if that helps. I always get the 3/4 inch. I cut the pipe insulator just a little bit shorter than my loop. Just a little bit shorter, and let's see if I did it. And this is always, oh, I don't need my glasses. It's always scored on one side. You just open it up, okay? And let's see if I did a good job or not. Live. You scoot it on. Yeah, that's going to fit. Good. And now you have kind of a foam handle. That's much more comfortable. So I'll show you how to do that again. We'll do the other side. Okay. You take your loop. It's flat. You turn it into a T. It's still kind of flat, but this is going to give you something to measure. Take your pipe insulator, 3/4 inch. I don't like that in because it's not level. Cut it just a little bit smaller. I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch. I don't really measure it. find where it's scored. It is scored somewhere. There it is. Open it up. Slip it over in that same T formation. I'm not sure if I'm calling it that. I guess I call it perpendicular or, I don't know, horizontal. Put your hands in, and now you have some really comfortable hand cushions. So now if you have arthritis and you feel like, oh, I liked all these benefits, but I wasn't crazy about this benefit, and the price is about the same anyway, you or somebody who loves you very much can do this for you quite easily. So I'll show you one more time how to use a sock aid with the new handles, okay? Again, take my sock, I stabilize my sock aid between, oh, I'm getting all kinds of things here, between my knees. There's my sock. I pull it over the end, so easy. I pull it up to the ropes, so easy. I do need fine motor control for this part. Sometimes on some of the hard plastic, always on a hard plastic sock aid, you can use that sort of palm technique to push your sock higher up on the sock aid. You really can't do that technique with terry cloth backed ones. It won't work. It just won't work. But you can take your time. There's no race, okay? So say you're able to get the sock on the sock aid quickly, get it pretty much positioned here quickly, but it takes you a little while to get the rest on. That's okay. That's all right. You're still doing it safely and you're still doing it independently, and I'm still very proud of you. There's no race. There's no award that they give out for people who put their socks on quickly. Okay, I'm going to open it a little bit because my feet are big. I'm going to go fishing for my foot. There we go. Go back to the right foot. I'm going to put my hands in my new cushion handles, and they feel so much better. Put my toes in. Point my foot down. Elbows are close to my body. I have to roll, but that's okay because the cushion is still protecting me. And it's on. All right, so there's one more adaptation. One more thing I want to tell you about this sock aid, and then one more adaptation, and then mercifully I will let you go. Last week I couldn't believe it. We went really long. I'm sorry. Thank you for anybody who checked in with me and wished me luck. And thank you if you're watching again this week, no matter when you're watching. The first thing I want to say is these are not good for compression stockings. So remember last week I said, oh, we're going to have 3 videos tops. Well, I think we're going to have 4 because I've realized that I've made DIY sock aids before, and I know there's kind of a big online community of people who like to do DIY things. So my 4th video, I'll show you how to make one out of a milk jug. But the 3rd one is specifically for compression sock aids. So that's what this big guy is here. So this is my cliffhanger. Stay tuned for next week. And I'll show you how to use him to put on a compression stocking. This isn't the only kind of sock aid that puts on compression stockings. And like I did last week, I'll put a couple links up this week where you can find this guy. And then next week of where you can find this guy and other compression stocking sock aids. All right. So that's one limitation of this guy. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to show you was, do you remember last week I put a pillow on the floor to make your foot at the right angle? Say your ankles are kind of stiff and it's difficult, or your toenails are really long because you can't get to the podiatrist that often, or just how you're sitting, just mechanically how you're sitting, the chair that you sit in to get dressed doesn't allow you to really get your toe down or pump your ankle. Well, I made a little adaptation here out of foam that you can do too. It was very easy. I actually used the plastic sock aid as a template, traced it around, cut it out. I don't know, that's maybe, what would you say, 1.5 inches? Maybe 1.5 inches. It just puts it at a good angle. So, plunk him on the floor, don't bend down. You can use your foot to turn him up. There you go. Put the sock on. You should be a pro at this by now. I know you've done it almost as many times as I have. Bring the sock up. The toe box is clear. Your sock is pulled up. I've used my hands to open it a little bit. I'm holding my nice soft cushions that I made, or somebody who loves me made for me. I'm dropping it on the floor, and oh look, it just landed on that. Kind of. Landed on my block there. Putting my foot in. Now it's just at an easier angle. That's all. You can use a pillow. You don't need to cut anything out of foam. But it just made it at just enough of an angle, like 30, 40 degrees, my heel's off the floor. Just seems to make it easier for people. I don't know why. Anyway, I think that's it for this week. So I want to thank you very much for joining me again. Or if this is the first time you've seen me, thank you very much. This is a series I'm going to be putting on once a week. We're starting with sock aids. It will not always be sock aids, I do promise you that. But there's a lot of information about sock aids out there that I want you to have. Then I'm thinking at this point we're going to be moving on to hip kits, and then maybe some other pieces of adaptive equipment, like there's buttoners, foot washers, all kinds of neat stuff like that. Things to help you don a bra. If you have an item that you would like me to do a show on at some point, just send me an email, that marnab2438yahoo.com. Put a comment here, or if you see it on YouTube, put a comment there. And thank you very much. I'm going to get up now and turn the camera off.